On October 7th, I, like so many other Israelis, were getting ready to go to synagogue to celebrate Simchat Torah when I became aware of an assault on Israel and the Jewish people, the likes of which we have not experienced since the Holocaust. You've all seen the numbers: 1,300 savagely murdered, 200 abducted, and nearly 4,000 people injured. For the past 11 days, Israel has been hurting, mourning, and burying its dead. We've seen pictures and stories of the barbarity of Hamas terrorists, of families that have disappeared, of children who were brutally murdered. This moment of tragedy has brought out the best of the Jewish people, an extraordinary moment of unity. Israelis proudly fighting to secure the country and defeat the evil scourge. Jews all over the world are standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel to ensure that these unspeakable horrors are never perpetrated again. Earlier today, I visited the Sheba Medical Center in Israel that has treated around 300 of the injured. And there I met a soldier who was injured in combat as he was trying to clear kibbutz Be'eri from the 120 terrorists that had infiltrated the kibbutz, and where 100 residents were tragically slaughtered. He said that his biggest disappointment was that because of his injury, he couldn't rejoin his unit to continue the fight. But this fight is not just on the battlefield. It is ensuring that the 30,000 evacuees from Israel's south have food to eat, temporary housing and clothing for them and their children. It is supporting medical centers and staff in the south who were inundated with 3,000 wounded over the course of 2 days. It is working to provide trauma care to those whose lives have been scarred forever. The LA Jewish Federation, with the generous support of thousands of Jews across Los Angeles, has been working day in and day out and has sent millions of dollars to Israel to help Israelis in this moment of need. Why Federation? Because we have the ability to fund services immediately through a network of best-in-class organizations with whom we work. We look at Israelis holistically and understand that to treat somebody is not just to give them a bandage for their wound, but a bed to sleep in, financial assistance to get back on their feet, support for their children, support for the families of hostages, and to stand with them as we rebuild the country and the communities that were destroyed, together as one people. Israel needs our continued support. And right now on the screen, there is a URL and a QR code that you can use immediately to donate funds to stand with Israel. And the Cayton-Goldrich Family Foundation is generously matching any gift you make for an opportunity to double your impact and amplify your support for Israel. We urge you to do this now. Israel needs us more now than ever. Today, Israel is a story of hurt, of healing, and heroism. And our special guests epitomize the best of Israel. Before I introduce our extraordinary guests, I want to echo what Zev said earlier and encourage all of you to use the chat to write questions that we can share with our guests. Major General Tibon, Noam Tibon, spent his military career specializing in counterterrorism and Homeland Security. He has held a variety of senior command positions, including commander of the Nachal Brigade, chief of the Infantry and Paratrooper Corps, commander of the Judea and Samaria Division, and commander of the Command and Staff College of the IDF. Some of you may have seen him when he appeared last Sunday on CBS News 60 Minutes, and we'll put a link in the chat for you to watch. Our second guest is Taly Levanon. She's the founding executive director of the Israel Trauma Coalition, an organization that was established in 2001 to create proactive policy around trauma care and provide systemic continuum of trauma-related care. Taly is a world-renowned expert on trauma care, a career that began in the Yom Kippur War, working with bereaved families, and has spanned the next 5 decades. Under her leadership, the ITC has developed a one-of-a-kind resilience center model based on experience developed in Israel South, and one that has been exported to other war-torn areas such as Ukraine. Thank you both for being with us and for sharing your time with our community. General Tibon, I'd like to start with you. You know, war and terrorism is not something that's new for you. But something was different this time on October 7th, when you learned of the infiltration of terrorists in Gaza or from Gaza. I'm wondering if you can share with us a little bit of your story from that same morning.
Okay. First of all, dear friends in LA, in the region, and I very appreciate what you're doing for the state of Israel, especially for the kibbutzim. I will start with my story and then a few remarks about the situation in Israel. So last Saturday was a regular day for me and my wife Gali in Tel Aviv, where we live. Early morning, we went to swim in the sea. We have beautiful beaches here in Tel Aviv. And in the middle of our swimming, we heard sirens. And, we stopped, and Gali asked me, no, what do you say? Let's go back to the beach. And I said, listen, Gali, we are in the middle of the sea. What can happen to us? And I didn't even think about, the situation. When we entered the core at 7:15 in the morning, I opened my cellular phone and I got a text message from my son, Amir, in Kibbutz Nachal Oz, on the border with Gaza, which basically says, Dad, we have terrorists in the kibbutz. This is, of course, the main fear when you live on the border. And so I sent him a text back, said, Amir, get into the safe room, lock the door from the inside and be quiet. And I wrote, I will tell everybody from the military. And we were rushing home. We changed in minutes. I took my pistol. I didn't think, because I have uniform at home, even though that I'm not active anymore. But, I just put a T-shirt and a jeans and we ran into we have a Jeep. And I told Gali, please drive so I can use my phone to wake up the military. I wasn't aware of the situation. So I text the chief of staff and the Southern Command commander and the division commander. All of them were under my command in the past, and I know them very well. We were speeding to Ashkelon, and then we got another text message which basically said, I believe that there is a terrorist inside the house. So, this is really frightening. So I gave Amir the same instructions. Lock the door. Don't get outside any chance. And be quiet. We passed Ashkelon. We get into the Gaza envelope. And then we came to the region of Sderot. And suddenly we saw something which was, from a different world. In the middle of the main road, which is a highway, we saw shooting battle between Israeli police and terrorists in a very short distance. We were the only car on the road at that time. And basically the police said, go, go, go. We did a U-turn. And while we were doing this U-turn, suddenly from the bushes, we saw a young couple running. They looked terrible. So I stopped them. I told them, get on the Jeep. Don't go there. You will be killed. And they were shaking like hell. We gave them water. And I asked them what happened. And they said, they were in the party and, they were shooting and everybody was killed. That's it. We drove all the way back to Ashkelon. We stopped near a police car and we gave it. And then we decided, after they went to the police, we decided we'll go in a different road because this road was blocked with a shooting. On the second road, which is east of Sderot, basically, a few miles later, we saw a police checkpoint, and there was 2 police cars blocking the road. And I told them, listen, guys, I'm retired general. My son is in danger. Please let me go. And they said, no, it's dangerous. Or they're shooting there. And I said, listen, he has terrorists in his house. And then he said a sentence which basically, drive me crazy. He says, don't worry, the military is in control. You wait here and they will solve everything. Now, I already knew that nothing is in control, and there is no military if there are so many terrorists inside Israel. So basically, we used our vehicle, we went to the field, we did a bypass, then we jump on another police checkpoint. Again, they said no, but we just went. We told them, listen, you want to shoot us, shoot. We don't care. We are going to save our kids. And when we enter the Sderot Junction, this was really a crazy scene. Many, many cars on the road, in the ditch, burning, bodies all over. It was a massacre. It was a slaughter. We were, driving between the bodies. And on the background, they were shooting all the time. And suddenly I saw, cars with license from Gaza. I told Gali, this is crazy. And we are going south on that main road until we came to Mefalsim. Now, Mefalsim is another kibbutz halfway from Sderot to Nachal Oz. And on Mefalsim, there was shooting battle between Yamam, the elite police anti-terror unit, and terrorists on the gate of the kibbutz. So we couldn't go further. We park on the side, and there were small shelter on the side near the bus station. We jump into the shelter, and we waited there for 20 minutes, half an hour. When the shooting ended, I went to this team and I said, listen, guys, my son is, there are terrorists in his house. Please come help me. You have the right vehicle. You have armored vehicle. Let's go. And the soldiers, they really want to come, but then their commander said, I need permission and I need this. And he started, hello, nobody answer him. I knew it's not going to work like this. And then one brave soldier, basically, who knew me from the past, he was under my command. He said, Noam, I'm coming with you. He was a brave guy. He was already wounded, but not seriously. And we went. We were I told my wife, Gali, you will stay in this shelter, and I'm going to Nachal Oz. I had only a pistol. He had a rifle. And we were going, and we are the only vehicle on the road. And it's all burning bodies all over. When we reach Saad Junction, where you turn to Nachal Oz, I saw Israeli helos. And I was afraid that they will think that I'm a terrorist vehicle and they will shoot us. So we waited a little bit until there will be some military vehicle that will come. When such a vehicle came, we stopped him. I stand in the middle of the road. I stopped him, and I told them, what are you doing? And they said, we are patrolling. And said, okay, come with me. Please escort me to Nachal Oz. They recognized me, and they said, yes, we'll do it. So we are driving on the road to Nachal Oz. It's a countryside road. Trees, fields. And then, about a mile later, we saw another Israeli military jeep on the side of the road. And again, there is a battle, a very short distance battle with a group of terrorists. We stopped, I jumped, I ran to them, only with my pistol. 3 of them were already dead. Cayton-Goldrich, he was the deputy of the Maglan unit. Iftach Yabetz, and the last one is Afik, a brave soldier. All of them were dead, but they were still warm. And the other 2 guys were in a tough condition. So, I became a soldier again. So I took from Cayton-Goldrich his M16 with a telescope. I took his helmet, and I pointed on one terrorist, I killed him. I pointed on another one, I shoot, he fell. And we killed 7 terrorists there. And at the end of this battle, we had 3 wounded soldiers, one of them in a critical situation. So the soldiers told me, "No, can you please evacuate them with your jeep?" Now, it's not my way. I'm going to Nahal Oz, but this guy would have died because he was losing a lot of blood. So I throw them on the jeep. I was speeding back to Mefalsim. I met Gali, my wife, and I told her, "Gali, can you please take them to the hospital?" And of course, this brave lady jumped on the jeep and she took them among all the fire to the hospital. But she told me, "Noam, you promised me you go to Nahal Oz." And I said, "Yes, this is what I'm going to do." I already had a rifle and a helmet, and I was ready for the battle. And then I saw a friend, Israel Ziv, another general, again with his private, and he was there as just like myself. He came to help, and he says, "No, how can I help you?" And I said, "Israel, please take me to Nahal Oz." And he said, "No, come." And I said, "Israel, it's very dangerous. There was an ambush there and we lost 3 soldiers." And he said, "Come." So this brave man really risked his life to help me. We drove to Nahal Oz at the entrance of the kibbutz. We met 2 brave battalions. One, they came a little bit after us, one Maglan unit and one paratroopers. The paratroopers went to fight on the military checkpoint that was occupied by the Hamas, and Maglan unit came with me. At the entrance of the kibbutz, I stopped them. I said, "Listen, you're young soldiers. Let me help you and teach you how you do it." And I explained them how to search the houses and how to do it slowly, because you have to be sure that what is clean from terrorists. There were bodies all over, terrorists, soldiers, and civilians. We searched very slowly, but we did it on the right way. We killed another 7 terrorists. And then about an hour and a half later, I had the great moment of my life. I came to my son's house. I wasn't in touch with him, so I was not aware if he's dead or alive. I knock on the window of this shelter, and I said, "Amir, it's dead." And he said, "I'm here." And my young granddaughter, Galia, said, "Grandpa came." So this was my lifetime moment. We stayed there until the night. We searched a kibbutz. We killed more terrorists. And in the night, we evacuated more than 300 kibbutz members. Since we arrived to the kibbutz, nobody got killed or injured. So this is my story. And we are in the middle of the war. And we will discuss it later.
Thank you so much, General Tibon. It's such a heart-wrenching story. Not everyone is as fortunate to have a father or a grandfather who was a general and trained. But yet there are so many heroes and so many people who have been taken from us, and so many people who have been injured. Taly, I think one of the things that is so characteristic of this conflict is that every single Israeli, everyone knows somebody who has been killed, abducted, injured. How has this touched you on a personal level? And then we'll, of course, get into the professional work that you're doing to help mitigate the trauma.
It's almost difficult to follow Noam's story, but I think what his story points us at mostly is how personal really everything is for everybody on different levels. We are all family members, we are all parents to children who are recruited or who live in the area. Professionally, I've been invested with all my heart and knowledge in the south of the country, building resilience centers almost 17 years ago to protect the emotional well-being of the people there and to help them prepare. And I will say that I've been doing this for many years. Nothing prepared any of us for what we are facing and what we will face. And I think the majority of the days of all of us pass in trying to, not to understand anymore, but to try and see how we can get back a feeling of control and meaning and being able to do our work with so many communities who are in need. I'm sure you know that almost 90, if not more, % of the people who live in the south of the country, in the Gaza envelope and the surrounding, are not there anymore. They are in about 140 hotels throughout the country. It is also very difficult. They left, some of them left within minutes, some of them left after a few hours, but to visit the hotels and to see them trying to maintain normalcy of life is with the many whose eyes are almost with not the light that we used to know, is very, very difficult. The stories that we hear, our emotional and professional availability to respond to these stories is almost all hours of the day. We receive requests from people that we worked with people that we don't know. My phone is open, so I can get a WhatsApp saying, I need your help. I know this woman, her husband was murdered near her and the children, and they're now in Beersheba. Can you please send a therapist? I get these calls, unfortunately, more than once. I get phone calls asking for help from the men who were recruited to evacuate bodies with no preparedness and no support, and they are requesting help, and so we reach out to them. We are working with the hospitals and we are working with the firefighters. I'm sure you heard the story about the unit, the whole shift, I would say, of policemen in Sderot that was killed when the terrorists infiltrated the station. And these are people that we worked with only 3 months before to help them with self-care and to build resilience. And so this I think the most difficult thing is having to deal with the personal and the professional all at the same time. The people that we work with are now they too are trying to regain a sense of routine, which is extremely challenging because they're facing issues of grief, and they go to the funerals. Their children are dealing with issues of feeling not safe, even if they are in a hotel in Tel Aviv or in a hotel in the Dead Sea. Some of the basic assumptions of these children and parents were shattered, and it is our responsibility as professionals, and of course in the Israel Trauma Coalition, this is what we do. It is our responsibility to partner with these people and see if we can help. And when you speak about pain and impact and heroism, I will say that we all share the pain, and we are all trying to impact the people. But I think the real heroes are those who are who are living in the area and are trying to keep their humanity and morals.
There's been a question about whether or not, and I turn this to both of you to respond. There's been a question about those who are living in the South. You hear tremendous stories of heroism, the community response teams, the rapid response teams who prevented incursions in certain places, the small acts of people holding doors closed to ensure that their families remain safe. But the big question that people ask all the time is, how do you rebuild a community following an event like this? What's needed to bring a community back together to sustain them psychologically, social, emotionally, but also some of the rebuilding of the physical damage and the security that they need to go back to their homes? Taly, do you want to start and then the general will join?
Yeah. Well, I believe that it is what we are discovering every day with a lot of chaos in the provision of coordination around us, with some of the government ministries trying to find their way. What I see more and more every day is that we need to really be there with them, with the communities and their leadership, and trust them to make their own choices in their own time. There is no sense in rushing decisions, and they are making their own decisions, which are very different, because in some cases, the community lost a third of its people while being there and seeing some of the acts that were happening outside their door. So our professional language is not sufficient to say how it is that the community can rebuild itself. But we see that people are talking about going back. We see that people are beginning to say that the children need to go to school. We see that people are voicing hope, which I find almost incredible. At the first few days, it was one of the things I didn't feel that I have a sense of around us. And now I see that people are looking to the future, and we need to support them as a community, as professionals, as the government. We need to support them in the process of making a decision how it is that they see their future. And it is very difficult, because they're still, in some cases, they know that they will still be in hotels for many months to come, but they're still discussing the sense of community. In many cases, they remained as communities in 1 or 2 or 3 hotels, but they're trying to maintain the sense of community. But as we know, it is going to be extremely difficult, an extremely difficult process.
General?
You know, those people, those communities, they suffered horror. They lost friends, family. Some of them, you know, crazy stories like families that, you know, people dead, people missing, people hostages in the same family. So what we did, you know, after we evacuated this, my son kibbutz Nahal Oz, I understood that there is a vacuum here. And I arranged a group of 25 retired generals and equivalent in Shabak, Mossad, and the police. Each one of them took a community, because you have to understand the kibbutzim, the homes, it's empty. You have only soldiers there. And the community, which most of them left with only 1 suitcase, refugees inside Israel, all over Israel, in hotels. And, you know, life is going. So, you know, you have to take care of the kids. You have to start to think about school. People, you know, they lost their work. It's a disaster. The main problem is that there is no government in Israel today. The Benjamin Netanyahu government, which is responsible to this disaster, the worst day in the history of Israel. We lost more Jewish in 1 day since the Holocaust. And there are people who are responsible to it. And more than everyone else is Benjamin Netanyahu and his collapsed government. And right now, they are not functioning as well. So basically, we have a lot of good people helping all over Israel, but the government is not functioning. And we will talk a little bit more about it later on. So we went on uniform, and each one of us took a community. And basically, it's a long process. Number one, we don't know how long it's going to be the operation. Number two, we need to win this war decisively because the whole neighborhood is watching us. Number three, we have to create a different situation on the border that, we don't have terrorists on the border. It must be something different. We must crash Hamas. So I see, three phases. Phase number one, right now, people are refugees. Phase number two, we have to start, take the communities to places where they can live for a while. Some can go home, some cannot. And phase number three is to rebuild those kibbutzim very nicely and bring the people home. The main problem is that, iron and blocks are the easy part. The difficult part is humans, because who is going to, grow up kids where they are under daily danger? The agreement between the civilians and the state failed. Those people, the pioneers of Israel, the most Zionist people in the state of Israel, who lived on the border and protected the border, basically, the agreement was that they will protect the border, but the government, the military, will protect them. On this dark Saturday, basically, the whole system collapsed, and I feel ashamed that the military system collapsed, and we have so many casualties. We have to search it. We have to understand what happened. I think it has a lot to do with to rely on technology. But this is something I'm really going to investigate. And
I want to just ask you, you mentioned before, both you and Taly, about the outpouring of civilians who are standing up and filling the vacuum, filling the void of where we might expect other services. There have been extraordinary volunteer efforts, passing out food, distributing, opening homes, etc. But I want to touch on something else. Today, President Biden was in Israel. And at the end of the day, like you said, General, for people, and Taly, for people to move back to the South, they have to have a basic belief that the country will protect them and that there needs to be a decisive victory in the war that is ongoing. Where do you see this going? Right now, the president was here. We've been slowly moving into an offensive posture over the last number of days. Where is this going? What's the significance of President Biden's visit and the work that the United States is doing with Israel at the moment?
First of all, I was in the meeting with President Biden, and I can tell you this was very impressive. I think President Biden is the most friendly president to the state of Israel, maybe since Harry Truman helped us to build our country. I met him with a group of people that was chosen by the embassy to represent heroes, to represent families that have hostages, to represent, good people. And he was great. He talked with us. He talked about, how did he feel when he lost his family in an accident. He talked about his father, taught him about the Holocaust, and that he is committed that there will be no Holocaust during his days in the White House. He was a leader, and we all salute him. I talked with him about the hostages, which I think this is something which we have to solve soon, because we have girls, we have babies, we have old people there. And I think this is something which we have to do soon. Otherwise, it can be very, very, very dangerous for them. I believe in two things. Number one, we have to win this war. Number two, I trust the IDF. The Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, took full responsibility of the failure of this Black Saturday. And I support him. I'm working with the IDF to crash Hamas. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister Netanyahu and the ministers didn't take any responsibility yet. This is lack of leadership. Benjamin Netanyahu is a failure. And yes, at the end of this war, we will have to do a restart for the state of Israel. We were suffered in the last year from this government. And basically, I can admit that I talk and wrote about my feelings that we are in the eve 50 years after Yom Kippur War. I felt that, something like this is going to happen. And unfortunately, it happened. So right now we have to win the war. We have to help those communities. And I really ask you to donate to those communities. Don't put even $1 through Kakal, Keren HaYesod, or the government of Israel. The money should go directly to the kibbutzim. Don't put even $1 to the government. You need to see that the money that you donate go directly to the people who need it, not to all kind of organization.
I want to stop here for a second because I think it's important to mention and to share that for everybody on this call who has been so generous and involved with the Federation in supporting Israel knows that their dollars are going to work to support those who have been evacuated from the South, rebuilding communities, making sure that their dollars are going to help your sons' friends who have been evacuated from their kibbutzim to find shelter and for their children to have activities when they're away from their home. And that's what we continue to do. So I appreciate your plea for the donation. And as I mentioned before, we have the URL and the QR code for people to donate now to ensure that their continued contributions are going to support Israelis and Israel in very, very significant ways moving forward. Taly, I want to touch base with you because there's a long road ahead of us in terms of rebuilding the resilience and helping this country deal with the effects and impact of this tragedy. Can you talk a little bit about what you foresee and how you believe the American Jewish community can stand with you in this effort?
Well, I understand there are hundreds of people watching us and I can't see them, but we can feel them. And I'm very grateful for all of you for being here with us. And I will say, as I said before, I mentioned that in these very, very almost black times where we find the hope and the thinking of the future very difficult, sometimes it is you who hold it for us. And for that is a bridge. And we need to do the same for the people who were evacuated, who were looking to see where they are going, whose future is very unclear. There's a lot of uncertainty. And we need now, our role or our responsibility is to hold the hope and the road to healing, to hold it for them. And this is going to be a very long road. I specialize in bereavement. That's what I've been doing for many years. And I think you cannot rush the process. It will take time for the parents and the children to work through the issues of what they've seen. As the general has said, and as you well know, they lost people. People were kidnapped. They are dealing with the visions and the noises that they will hear for many, many months and years ahead. And so we need to put together all our professional knowledge and trust in the process and trust in their ability to move forward. But it is very difficult at the moment. And I think at the moment we need to do two things. We need to be with them where they are, which is a very difficult place to be. And we need to help them understand that there is a road ahead. And what the general said about the people in the kibbutzim is also right for the people of Sderot, and also right for the people in Ofakim, where there was a terrible battle with the terrorists. And so what we need to do is find the caregivers who will help them through, but we need to understand that everybody is living in what we call a shared reality. Our therapists one of our therapists was locked in a cupboard in her own room. Two were killed, one was kidnapped. I mean, our cadre of trained professionals are also people living in the South. And so we, like everybody else, like the security teams, so there are gaps in the ability of the caregivers to care. And we need to support them. We need to support the leadership in these communities. And of course, we need to work very slowly, and the tailor-made program, what suits one family will not suit another. And this is something that we will need to build in the next many months.
Taly, you've been dealing with resilience for so many years through different conflicts and natural disasters. Do you feel like at this point, after such a profound event has really traumatized the country, that the current models are sufficient, or we need to find ways to create new opportunities for interventions through therapy or other strategies that you may develop?
I think we should be very careful not to say that we have the answer for your question, because it is not only the issue of not having enough people. For example, in Ashkelon, prior to the war a year ago, we had 400 requests for therapy. A week after the war, we had 1,200 more, and now we have thousands of people coming in for therapy, and we will have a tsunami of requests for therapy. So the question is not only in numbers, that we will have many people who are going to come in for our services. The question is also the experiences that they bring in with them. The experiences that they bring in with them will be difficult for the caregivers as well as for them. It's not only bringing in more policemen. It's a question of helping them find a purpose and meaning, and being able to move forward with the experiences that they share. And so we need to build everything slowly, but I don't think new models are necessary. I think what we need is more therapists. We need to have a collaboration, which I'm glad the general stated it. There is little that we receive at the moment as directions from the government. There is a lot of, there is not enough coordination or professional direction, and that also creates a lot of uncertainty and anger. And so we will need to work every day, and we are doing it every day, to create new models to recruit. For example, in the Israel Trauma Coalition, we're now recruiting and training in the trauma-focused therapy, more trainers, more therapists. The only way to move forward would be to work together and create a better understanding and new models, not in the sense of new models in the sense of understanding what the needs are, and this is something also new.
Our time is running short, and I want to make sure that we're answering some additional questions that are in the chat. And our CEO and president of the Jewish Federation, Rabbi Noam Farkas, actually arrived in Israel today for a 24-hour mission, meeting with some of our victims of terror in Israel, and helping to think through our strategy moving forward. I want to make sure he has a few minutes to speak as well. Rabbi Farkas, are you with us?
Hi, Aaron. Thank you. Yes, hi everyone. I just arrived to Israel maybe an hour ago and has came here to Jerusalem, and I'm about to go into some meetings to sit with the families of hostages and to hear their stories and the details of the horrors that they're going through. Tomorrow, I'll be meeting with government officials as well as with staff like Aaron on the ground to really figure out where is the best use of our dollars in the coming moments and in this very trying time. I will just add that the people of Israel are incredibly resilient. They are devastated and horrified, but they have a very strong resolve, and we stand with them. And we are one global Jewish community. We stand with them, and we will do everything we can to provide them the resources that they need in this very, very, very trying time to succeed, to rebuild, to provide mental health, to provide cash assistance, housing assistance, whatever they need. That is what we will try to provide. And I'm here with CEOs from other federations, from other large Jewish organizations across North America. Only here for a day, but it's really important that we show up and express our solidarity together. And I want to thank Aaron for all of his hard work, and Shira for all of her hard work on the ground here in Israel, helping us understand what the needs are on a very detailed basis so that we can efficiently deploy funds and move forward. And also have to just say that Aaron and Shira are doing this while their country is at war. So it is a very valiant thing, and I want to thank both of you. I have to run to go back into the meeting, but I want to thank all of you for joining and that we're all in this together. And in the coming days, we'll have more to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. This is we're approaching the end, and I just want to emphasize when we invited General Tibon to join us for this call, he asked me one very specific question, and I thought it was telling about who he is as a person, and clearly through his actions we know who he is as a leader. He said, "Aaron, I want you to promise me that all the money that the Federation raises is going to help the people of the south of Israel who have been victims of this terrible atrocity." And I said to the general, I said, "We are absolutely, every dollar that we are raising is going to help Israelis who have been through this horror, whether it is finding them shelter, providing them cash assistance, providing them with mental health assistance, dealing with trauma." This is our commitment to Israel, and it's our commitment as part of the Jewish people where we stand shoulder to shoulder. I also want to say one other thing. Noah mentioned just now that he's going to meet with the victims, the families of the hostages. One of those families is actually close friends of mine whose son was at the music festival, was injured and was taken and abducted into Gaza by the Hamas terrorists. They have been fighting valiantly like the 200 other families who are struggling and fighting to see their loved ones free from Gaza. It's a story that we can't ignore, and it's a trauma that the whole country is bearing right now as we go through this war. And the bottom line is that we have to win because there is no other alternative. This is what we do as a community, this is what we do as a country, and this is what we do as a people. I want to thank Taly, Levanon, for being with us, for being a partner in everything that we do, for your leadership, creating resilience around the country, using our resilience centers as a vehicle to ensure that people have stable, healthy, emotionally healthy lives and are able to move on to the next phase. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank General Tibon for taking the time to be with us, for your heroism and for your continued leadership as you help rebuild the South. And I want to remind everybody on this call that this is our moment together to stand up. There is an opportunity for you to contribute, to donate money, to be with Israel and to be with Israelis in ensuring that we have a better future, taking advantage of the Cayton-Goldrich Family Foundation match to amplify your giving and to make sure that every dollar you give is even more valuable, using the QR code or the URL that is behind me on this screen. And I will tell you that in the coming days on our website, you will see all the information about the organizations, where the money is going to, how it's being spent, how it is being used to make sure that Israel is safer, more secure, more prosperous as we move forward. Thank you all for being with us today and for sharing. Thank you once again to Taly Levanon and to Major General Noam Tibon and for the rest of the community. And I look forward to further conversations as this moves forward, as we move to a safer conclusion of this war. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your help.